Tom, you wrote a song, Lightning Struck Twice. Tell us about that song.
Back in the late 50s and early 60s, I was working in the Harris Club in Reno, Nevada, and right outside of Reno there was a little honky-tonk, and on the building was Waylon Jennings. So I went out there and I met Waylon, and we got talking, and he was a Texas boy, and he always talked about going back to Texas. So after a week or two, when he got done playing at that little honky-tonk, I went back to Texas with him and back to the Fort Worth, Dallas area, and hung out there for a while. And we always played in Panther Hall. It burnt down in the early, about 64 or 5, somewhere in there. But we'd play there, and Willie Nelson was always there, and Ray Price, who didn't live too far from the Dallas area. He was there quite often. So we hung out together, and then through these guys I met a fellow by the name of Curtis Leach. And he had the idea of Lightning Struck Twice. His mom and dad were owned property, and this black family were sharecroppers with them. And this black gentleman, his little girl got sick, and he couldn't take her to the doctor or whatever, but he went to church, took her to church, and Curtis told me the story about it. He wrote a couple verses, and he got it started, and then he told me the story, and I worked on it for a couple of weeks, and we finished her up and fine-tuned her, and he was pretty happy with it. I heard that he did record it. I don't know if he did or not. I don't know if I'm as a co-writer or not, but I've never heard the song recorded. Then when he was about 35 years old when I met him, and they had 5 children, him and his wife. He lived in Mesquite, Texas, and he came home one night, and him and his wife got in a big scrap, and she stabbed him in the leg with a knife, and he bled to death. And he died in the Dallas Memorial Hospital, the same hospital Kennedy died in. She stabbed him in the leg and must have hit an artery. And when Darla and I got married, Darla was my wife, and we got married, we went back to Texas. I heard that he had died, that his wife had stabbed him.
The prayer meeting had gone as usual. The sermon was cut and dried, and most of the regular members had already testified. The preacher said, "Now before we pray, is there anyone else?" Would the stranger in the third row stand up and introduce himself? A man stood up, said, "Lane's the name. My friends just call me Joe. I used to be a Christian, folks, but I backslid years ago. The last time I went to church was the night my little girl died. It was late and the doors were locked, so I knelt on the steps outside. I said, Lord, I can usually handle these little things. I might think on them a day or two. But when it comes to the big decisions, I've always brought them straight to you. I've done my share of complaining when things don't work out right. I've never questioned your judgment, Lord, not once, until tonight. Last night I asked you to let her live. You paid my prayer no mind. Now if you're really up there looking down, you better send down a sign. A bolt of lightning struck a tree, no more than 40 yards from me. But I was so crazed with doubt by then, I said, let's see who'll make her strike again. Well, nothing happened, and I walked away, for I was on my own. It was my first big decision, friends, and even that was wrong. You see, in a storm last night I was walking past what's left of that old church house, when lightning struck that same old tree and turned it inside out. Yes, friends, it took a mighty light to change the sinner's heart. I see lightning strike the same tree twice, 30 years apart.